Alright guys, welcome back to Formula 1 news. The budget cap saga is far from over. The FIA have delayed their announcement of the certificates of compliance until one day after the Japanese Grand Prix, where Max Verstappen could already have signed, sealed and delivered the 2022 World Drivers' Championship. Very much intrigued your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. Loads to discuss today. First of all, just wanted to touch on this quickly. The Honda logo will be back on the Red Bull and alfa tauri for every race from now to the end of the season. Lots of discussion on this, whether Honda and Red Bull are effectively going to get back into bed together and they're going to take over the branding once again of Red Bull powertrains for the upcoming season. Honda just do this weird thing. They leave, they come back, they leave, they come back again. But of course, it is rather coincidental for Honda that, okay, they manufactured the engine, but also it's possible that the Drivers' Championship could be won by Max Verstappen at their home race this upcoming weekends. All Verstappen has to do to win is win the race with the fastest lap. If he achieves that, it's a guaranteed slam dunk. He'll win the Drivers' Championship. Otherwise, it'll probably be the next race in Austin. He needs to finish 8 points ahead of Leclerc and I believe 6 points ahead of Perez, and that is job done for Verstappen and he wins the championship. If he wins the race, but someone else takes the fastest lap point and Leclerc gets seconds, then it's effectively game still on. But it all coincides rather interestingly with the whole cost cap drama. So the last few days, of course, we saw right before the Singapore Grand Prix, rumours were emerging that Red Bull were significantly over the cost cap, about 145 mil for last year in 2021. If they were over, well, within 5% of that, that is a minor breach technically, although a lot of teams say even a 5% breach of $5, $6, $7 million, that's like, 70, 80 engineers that they could put towards development of their car to be about half a second quicker than their rivals. Toto Wolff has described it potentially as effectively a car on steroids that Max Verstappen may have been driving at the end of last season, effectively implying that, okay, what did the FIA do if it is deemed indeed that Red Bull spent more money and therefore had arguably an illegally developed car? What are their kind of repercussions there? We shall of course see. Today was meant to be a big day for that because the numbers were meant to come out. We were meant to be able to see whether XYZ team had in fact breached the limits, and if that was the case, then in due course the argument will be made, what should the potential repercussions be? Red Bull will say here in a second that if Verstappen was to be stripped of his title, they would certainly be getting the lawyers out right. I don't expect the FIA to do that, but it's one of the things they could do if Red Bull are deemed to be over the limit. We were, of course, meant to find out today. Ferrari and Mercedes have certainly been, going pretty hard on this, right? Saying it's game over if F1 fails this. And that is the big question to me, because the rumor has it as it stands that pretty much regardless of what happens here, there won't be any major repercussions. Red Bull are seemingly, at least the rumor still has it, they are in a minor breach, whether that's 5 million, whether it's less, who knows, but they have breached it to some degree is of course the present rumor that people are still running with as it stands, but others are still saying that regardless of the extent of this breach, if it's within the minor limit effectively, they will get a minor penalty. Now, and they won't, take away any constructors, drivers points or whatever from last season. The thing is, if that is the case, then the budget cap is no longer the budget cap. The budget cap is simply 5% over the budget cap, because every other team will be more than happy to take a fine or whatever to maximize the potential of their cars. That's really the key issue here, is that if the FIA clamps down hard on any potential breaches, then, it means that the teams have to stick to the budget cap going forwards. If they don't, then every team is going to be breaching the budget cap, certainly the top dogs, because of the extra advantage to be gained if all they have to do is pay some sort of fine. So obviously it's a pretty big time for the FIA to make these calls, but as of yet, we don't even know what's going on. They said that today there was going to be an announcement, and it turned out there was no such announcement. But the rumor has it from Sky that only minor breaches have been detected, which is still within the 5%. That many are saying it's not really minor necessarily if you could put an extra $5-6 million purely into aerodynamic development, but apparently no team is going to face severe punishment, and therefore that raises serious questions going forward if this does turn out to be the case as to, well, what the other teams say about it, but also the fact that like every top team is going to be breaching the budget cap every single year for here on out, which probably doesn't seem like a good precedent to set either. So funny really, because the FIA came out with this pretty much dead on 12 o'clock when they were meant to release the certificates of compliance. Like they did this tweet talking about the 3-year absence, the return to Japan, all this type of stuff, and people are like, hang on lads, like, can we actually like reveal what you were meant to reveal? And then shortly afterwards there were rumors circulating that indeed they weren't going to say anything today, and they were basically going to do an update regarding timelines for when they were going to release stuff, and this came out very recently. The FIA will not conclude analysis of financial submissions today. The new date given is Monday the 10th of October. So like the FIA does not cover themselves in glory here. They've stated there's a deadline. They said they were going to release everything on this date. They've now missed the deadline and are now pushing it back. And it's a very interesting time that they're pushing it back to, right? Just because this is, well, on the Monday after this upcoming weekend. I'm sure they don't want it to mar this weekend to some degree, although it still will. And let's say Verstappen wins with the fastest lap, becomes the world champion, and then the day after, the drama potentially could kick back off for the previous year's world championship, or maybe it won't, or whoever, maybe it'll get overshadowed by the Verstappen winning the championship, or maybe it'll be the other way around. Honestly, who even knows? But the FIA, like, really, they don't help themselves. Like, every few days, there's some new piece of drama, a new reason why people are understandably frustrated with their actions, right? So they've delayed it, and obviously, you know, this opens the door to conspiracy type territory, right? Where people are going to say, well, you know, this is a little bit strange that they're taking, well, extra time to decide on what they want to do here effectively. So the FIA came out with a statement. It's a long and complex process, which obviously it is, and it needs to get it right. So I don't necessarily mind so much them taking their time to make sure they get this right, but just the fact that they gave a deadline and then missed it, it's like, you know, it doesn't sound great, does it? And also, who knows if Monday will still be an accurate date as well, especially because a lot of these team bosses, like Toto Wolff, I'm pretty sure wasn't even going to go to Japan because, you know, so many races in the season, thought he'd take one off effectively, but he did decide to go because he thought that, you know, okay, this cost cap thing's going to come out today, then there's a lot of discussion on that, he needs to be there for the meetings, and now he's the one going to be flying home on Monday, like, and this stuff's going to be announced on the flight probably, so yeah, not good really for anyone. They did reiterate here a couple of things. They said there's been a significant and unsubstantiated speculation and conjecture in relation to this matter, and the FIA reiterates that until it is finalised, no further information will be provided. Going on to say, the FIA also reiterates that any suggestion that FIA personnel have disclosed sensitive information is equally baseless. This pretty much refers to what some, and I believe even Helmut Marko, as he usually does, talked about this, where one of Toto Wolff's former advisors is now working for the FIA, and there were rumours that she had, told Toto Wolff what was going on here, and therefore that's where the information had come from. They say that's not the case at all and is totally baseless. So it's definitely interesting, and that's kind of the bottom part of the article here from the article verbatim. But what do you guys think about this, right? Look, the FIA are going to take their time to mull over the regulations. There have been some rumours that Red Bull have used certain loopholes, and maybe that's what they're kind of getting held up on to make the call. But, you know, you'd have thought that by now, several months after these submissions, they could have figured out whether a team has breached them or not, and they're going to come out with their numbers in a few days' time. Obviously, people are going to say, well, you know, they're just biding their time to try and figure out how they can allow Red Bull to escape from the sanctions here. Obviously, we hope that's not the case and everything is done fairly, but the FIA don't help themselves, right? Like, if they went along with everything as they initially said that they would, then there would be really no issues and no concerns. But after saying that they were going to announce it today and then failing to and delaying it to next Monday at a very interesting time to actually announce things, then further questions are going to be raised. And I'm sure, like, you know, hashtag F1 fixed or whatever they tweet out is probably still going on Twitter right now. So that is the question, right? If there is indeed a minor cost cap violation, even, well, Ferrari aren't going to be happy, Mercedes aren't going to be happy, and if that does get confirmed on Monday or, you know, beyond, who even knows at this point, then the question is then raised, what do they do? So even when they announce this, they're not necessarily going to immediately announce the punishment, whether Red Bull, or if they even at all even are over the budget, right? Or even if Aston Martin are, like, what the fines or what kind of process is, they're not going to announce that with the certificates of compliance. They just have to effectively confirm, did they meet the budget, did they not? That is the next step, and then the step after that is, if you didn't, then what do we do about it, right? Which is where all the teams, I'm sure, will be piling in. And that's kind of the question with Verstappen for 2021, because some are suggesting that it is a possibility within the rules that if indeed Verstappen was in this kind of, you know, what did Toto Wolff state, like on steroids car effectively at the end of last season, and they'd spent way more money on it than they should have done, then you can argue whether a percentage of the points for the constructors and drivers should be taken away as a result. Toto Wolff and others haven't called for that, but he's definitely weighed up the possibility and said that he wouldn't want to be in the judge's shoes if they have to make this call. And well, Dr. Helmut Marko has come out and said that if that does happen, he is considering legal measures. They've obviously got a lot of lawyers over there at Red Bull, as he says the following: that would be a huge scandal. If necessary, we will take legal action. So, like, he reckons that if they were to do this, the FIA, which I really doubt it's going to happen, but still, it's a possibility that they were going to deduct the points, and therefore Verstappen would not be last year's champion. Like, it'd be an awful look in general for Formula One if a title is crowned and then taken away several months later, and, you know, who would know, like, even future seasons seasons, whether that's also a possibility. You crown the champion, but then you're thinking for several months, oh, you know, did they breach the cap or whatever? So definitely an interesting one. But yeah, Helmut Marko and Red Bull effectively say, yeah, we're going to seek legal action against Formula One if that was to occur. Maybe implying that he thinks it's a possibility, right? But honestly, who knows at this point? We will have to just stay tuned. And even Toto Wolff says, look, team bosses have already commented too much. Like he reckoned maybe himself and others just need to calm it down a little bit. Focus on letting the FIA sort it out. But you know, not many people right now have particular confidence in the FIA to do exactly that. And yeah, a lot of people are slamming them as pretty incompetent, and they don't exactly, well, paint themselves in a great light, let's be honest, over these last several weeks. And just to mention this as well from Andrew Benton, right, as he mentions here, the fact that, like, after all these teams having waited up until midnight in Japan to get this information, for it to then get delayed and then probably get announced while they're on their 13-hour flights back to Europe, it's let's just say suboptimal all around. And just to mention this also real quick, because yeah, there's been some talk about Porsche, of course, that has completely fallen through now with Red Bull, but the potential of a partnership with another manufacturer is in consideration, and apparently even Hyundai are in the conversation now. So I would probably expect the Honda thing to kind of rekindle, but honestly, who knows? Maybe Hyundai Red Bull is a possibility in the near term. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.